Peace and light once again, everyone, and welcome to my Aisha Speaks Jade podcast. I am the host, Aisha, also known as Jade. Some call me Aisha. However you like it, I love it. As long as you remember, always RESPECT. You know, I do not play about that. So I am back once again. I am doing a makeup live audio for Saturday, which was yesterday, Saturday, February the 9th, 2019. Again, I hope everyone is doing well. You're having a blessed day. If you're out, I hope that you're enjoying, but I also hope that you're safe. If you're just relaxing like I am and just kind of bringing it down, because it's truly been a very long, exhausting, physically, mentally, emotionally, financially week, then just take care of self-care. I always speak about that, self-care, making sure that you do that each and every day, whether it's a small task or something big. Just make sure that whatever you're doing, do it for yourself and that you're enjoying it. So what I would like to speak on today is, give me a quick moment, and I am known as the hashtag researcher. I put that on myself. No one gave that to me. I say that for myself because I do like to research. Okay, I do. You can find a lot of wealth of information, be it good or bad. You know, you use your discernment on how you're going to utilize it or take it. So the topic at hand today, and I will do my best to be brief with you. The topic at hand today is, do you want to be a better listener? And when I say, do you want to be a better listener, I'm not speaking about, therapists or counseling, that type of listening, because you can be a listener. There are different ways of being listeners. You don't necessarily have to open your mouth. Just listening is good. Nonverbal communication is good also. So we're going to jump into that, and I might use scenarios based on, what I speak about, just to give you kind of an idea. And as always, if you know of ways or strategies as well, leave it in my comment box. Okay. So again, do you want to be a better listener? So you can add these 5 tips or add these 5 strategies to your toolkit. Don't forget about that toolkit box. You got to create yourself one. So nearly everybody wants to be a better listener to coworkers, families, or family and friends. It's a skill that life demands of us, but it's not always easy. And believe me firsthand, it is not always easy. Some people are actually master listeners. And what that is people who not only are good at retaining information they hear, but are active and engaged in their listening. Like bartenders, or taxi drivers, or even physicians, or perhaps even yourselves. So by dint of their professions, they find themselves interacting with and listening to people often. So here's a scenario. His name is Joe. He's about 70 years old. He's a Lyft driver in the Florida area. Knows that when a passenger wants to engage, it is part of her job to listen. Some riders prefer silence, and that's okay. But many of the people she picks up sense that she's a good listener as soon as they slide into her backseat. So one time, Joe, and it is a female, or Joannis, I should say, Joannis picked up a passenger who was grieving his divorce and clearly needed time to talk about it. So what she did was she pulled into a parking lot When he was all done, he just looked at her and said, "Wow, I haven't said any of those things out loud in years." So many people in the service industry are particularly good listeners, and in some cases, having a sense of intuition and being able to read people well is almost a prerequisite for success in these roles. So Sarah, here's another, for instance, Sarah, who's about 50, she's a yoga teacher from Brooklyn, New York, considers her position to be somewhat similar to a career in mental health services. People are coming for something. It's a giving field. If you really want to be in service of something outside of yourself, it's important to hear and listen to what's going on for other people. So even if you don't work in the service industry, we can all benefit from improving our listening skills. So I'm going to speak about some of these tips some tips for you to build that muscle. So the first would be learn the difference between being still and being quiet. So does anyone know, before I speak on that, what the difference is between being still and being quiet? Okay, let's get into this. So one key to listening is to be able to be still, not quiet. There's a huge difference. Being quiet means you could be waiting for the other person to stop speaking so you can say what it is, what you want to say. But being still is being able to really absorb what the other person is saying. So let me say that again. Being quiet means you could be waiting for the other person to stop speaking so you can say what it is, what you want to say. But being still is being able to really absorb what the other person is saying. So stillness provides you with the mental clarity to give a thoughtful response when and if it becomes appropriate. You can practice stillness on your own, so you're better at it when you're with other people. You might consider going for a walk with no headphones. When you make time to practice stillness, your mind is focused on what's happening right then. So that's a really brief description on what being quiet and being still is. Next, I want to briefly speak on use nonverbal cues. When you're ready to react, take a deep breath, pause, and just be okay with the silence. It's okay to think before you speak, or maybe not even speak, so that you can process and fully listen. Responding is one way to be an active listener, but there are other powerful nonverbal cues that can let someone know you hear them, which can be genuine eye contact, facing the person, and showing compassion and curiosity for what they are trying to say are all examples of nonverbal listening. So as the one Lyft driver, which I believe her name is Joannis, she has to be comfortable with nonverbal cues since her primary focus is, of course, on the road ahead of her. And as a Lyft driver, she can't turn around and look at them because guess what? We all know that's going to be a nasty accident. But however, she can nod her head or say some things like, "I hear you." Or that she can say she resonates with something that her passenger is saying. Something, for example, like, that must have been difficult. Okay, so those are just really brief descriptions of nonverbal listening or nonverbal cues. The next is remove distractions. So being a good listener means that we can make a person feel at ease right from the beginning of the encounter so that they will do all the talking. So Mary Gale, who is 58, here's one of those scenarios. She's a doctor of medicine. She says simple steps that she takes when she first meets a patient is to shake hands and create eye contact and smile. She says, I want them to know that they are the only one who has my full attention at that moment. In order to truly show that, you'll also need to put your phone away, right? Because our phones are a very distractive thing. I can be honest of that myself. So you have to put the phone away. And it says, a 2012 study shows that having your phone out, speaking of phones, having your phone out, even if you're not using it, it stifles interpersonal reaction and you can hinder your ability to listen. So if you can, put your phone up, not put it off to the side. If you can put it off the side, if you can't fully put it all the way up, I don't know, put it in your pocketbook, put it in your, put it out of sight. I guess, let me just say that. Put it out of sight and focus your attention on what that individual is talking about. So that was about removing distractions. Next is separate yourself from the equation. There are certainly times when listening can feel boredom, right? You can be bored or burdensome or outright annoying. And in such moments, it's helpful to remember why you're listening in the first place. Perhaps it's part of your job, or you're trying to be a good friend to someone you care about. Take a second to identify your feelings, whether it's exhausting, frustrating, or boredom. Then ask yourself, can I take a pause on that feeling and be there for the other person? Active listening can sometimes require an element of selfishness. Okay. So that was about separate yourself from the equation. And the last and final is remember small details. So here's a scenario. So Tess, who is 26, who is a bartender in New York City, naturally listens to and remembers certain guest order. So she speaks on how there's one patron who has dined alone at the bar a few times during dinner, during the rush hour. She orders a Coca-Cola, a filet, some fries, and a side of tomatoes, right? And so she asked that guest, are you sure you don't want Campari tomatoes too? I could probably be saying it wrong, and if I am, my apologies in advance. So she's asking this guest if she wants a particular tomato, not just regular tomatoes. So this guest is not a her, it is a him. She also asked him the one time his order was different. He was touched by the gesture that he texted his wife, which was, what he texted his wife was, the bartender remembers me. You can practice this attention to detail even if you don't work in that particular service industry. And I know for me, I don't work in that particular service industry, but the industry that I do work in, when my mind is good and I'm having a good brain memory, I'm remembering the husband or wife name, the children's name, the dog's name. Like, I'm on a roll, and I do remember a lot of times, like details, attention to details. And people tend to appreciate that. I know when I was doing a different type of job, well, I'm not doing it anymore, but when I was doing security, and, no, I wasn't making the best or whatever, but, I was doing the best job that I could do, as I do with any jobs. I do the best job that I can do. And, I'm greeting people, not because I'm being fake, but that's just me. I'm going to greet you when you come in, right? So long story short is that one of the people that was in HR at that time at the building that I'm working at, they said one of the things that they liked about me is that I remembered their first and last name and always, say good morning. And, she stated she didn't know if I was going through anything or not, which back then I was going through some things, but I still, addressed her. And so that's one of the reasons that, she recommended me for the position that I have now, because she just was impressed, not only that I was remembering who she was first and last name, but she noticed that, I noticed other individuals calling them out by their name, even having, very brief conversation about, how their family was and blah, blah, blah. And so here I am now in this new position. I'm grateful. But, I know I must move forward. But, I'm just saying that people do appreciate you when you remember certain things. That's just how it is. Some people are really like, they like that. Other people may not. Other people be like, they could care less if you remember them or not. But you do have people that like attention to detail. So that's what this gentleman was doing. He texted his wife, told his wife that, Tess remembered him. So again, you can practice this attention to detail, even if you don't work in that service industry. I'm not saying that everybody has to do it, because everybody they not set up like that. That's them. That's going to have to be okay. So next time you're talking with a friend or listening for what's coming up in their week, or whomever you might have a conversation with, and they might be particularly stressed out, just kind of learn to listen a little bit. Then if they do feel like they are stressed, especially if it's someone that and you have like in a relationship with, and I don't mean an intimate one, I'm just saying like a relationship, follow back up with that individual to see how things went. Or, for me, again, I am just who I am, very intuitive and empath, and just this little humanitarian type of lady, that sometimes when I see people, like, I can feel when people are going through things, and not because I want to, but that's just how I'm built. Okay, so I'm learning to embrace that. So there are times, actually, being transparent, that if someone's going through something, sometimes I just allow people to I like to give people space. But then, I kind of from time to time do follow up and be like, well, how do you feel today? And they're like, thanks for asking. They'll say, well, I might feel a little better, or whatever the case may be. That's just me. Do I do it to everyone? No, I'm not going to lie and say I do. But to those that I have done it to, I do kind of be like, girl, or you all right? Something like that, and they kind of appreciate that. So that's cool. Even if they didn't, I have the satisfaction of myself. So, just remembering small details can play a part. And, again, it's just nice to kind of listen, and you don't always have to talk. You can do nonverbal. removing distractions, and again, learning the differences between being still and being quiet. I hope that those tips were good. I hope that you enjoyed the content. As always, I hope that everyone enjoys the content that I give, you know. Also, as I've said before, if there's any types of tips or content or strategies that you too would like to share with me, and if it worked for you, or even if it didn't work for you, let me know. Leave it in the comment box. I always appreciate feedback, and I get a lot of love from Instagram. So I definitely appreciate you guys for listening and giving content, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. I'm okay with that. So thank you for tuning in again. The replay will be available shortly after. I'd like to invite everyone to my social media platforms, which of course I'm on Facebook right now, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and I have a YouTube channel. You can find me on all of them under Aisha Speaks Jade. Again, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and my YouTube channel, which you can go to and subscribe by hitting the thumbnail. Press that notification bell for all alerts. Like and or join my other platforms that I just said. Always remember to do your self-care, your self-love, your self-respect, and know your self-worth. Create your greatness as well as create your happiness. For 2019, I've already put it out there. Much prosperity, wealth, abundance, and just go for your goals. I send out amazing energy and vibes to enjoy the rest of your day and every day moving forward. And with that, be good to yourself. I say ashe and namaste.